Coming up next in business, we'll be heading to Europe's leading tech forum, VivaTech, which is taking place here in the French capital. Artificial intelligence is obviously front and center for this 10th edition, which kicked off this Wednesday. We can go across to France 24's business editor, Charles Pellegrin, who's covering this for us. Now, Charles, over to you.
Hi, Delano. Yes, I'm here at VivaTech with Vincent Huguet, who is the CEO and co-founder of Malt, which is Europe's largest freelance work platform, bringing together over 90,000 companies like L'Oréal and Schneider Electric with over 1 million freelance workers. And they have really great insights onto the trends that are taking place in that field, what skills are favored, what skills aren't. So I'm going to be asking about some of these trends with you, Vincent. You've seen in your report that there's a huge demand for agentic AI that's grown 60-fold over the past year. Agentic AI is AI models that work autonomously. They don't need to be prompted. What does that actually mean? What does a day-to-day look like for someone who works as an agentic AI engineer, freelance worker?
So it means that freelancers or independent consultants are maybe adapting faster than anyone else on the work market. So as you said, we are lucky to have 1 million in our community, 1 million independent workers. And we take every year, these 2.5 million searches that are done on the platform, and that can help us to predict what's going to happen on the work market, because freelance work market is more liquid, than the job market. And so we've seen, as you said, that AI, was the second keyword, more search, or the second type of skills, more search last year. It's even in the first quarter of the year of this year, it's actually number one. But in agentic AI, yes, we've seen that growing over the last 2 years, but last year it was 60 times. And we see that happen not only, with big companies, because as you mentioned, we have enterprise clients, but also SMBs, because our freelancers work with tens of thousands of small businesses. And that means that these companies also adapt to the new world of AI.
Another trend that I thought was noteworthy is the fact that general AI skills are extremely favored as well in a wide array of different sectors. Which sectors that aren't necessarily tech are requiring? Where is it a prerequisite to have these general AI skills?
Yeah, that's right. Obviously AI, is impacting a lot of jobs like software engineers, where before you had to, be an expert in one language, like Java, like Python, etc. And now you code differently. But it's also true for content jobs, marketing jobs, every type of consulting jobs. And we see actually that 22% of all the searches that we have need as a skill AI to be, something important for the projects. So we see that happening, as I said, in all type of companies, but in all type of also a role that is searched by all these companies.
In terms of freelance work, if you're one of the 1 million freelance workers on your platform, what's your advice to these people over the next 2-3 years? What should they focus on if they want to be more employable in the future?
What's impressive is I think we don't have to give them too many advice. They know that they have people who have to adapt faster than other ones, because they are working by projects. Sometimes it's a 2 weeks project, sometimes it's a 6 months project. So they have to be up to date with the technologies. What we know, and we survey them on this topic every year, is that they spend between 4 and 5 hours a week to train themselves. To maintain their skills, to be up to date on the market. So of course we do that. We have some partnership. We do a lot of community events where they can talk to other freelancers. We can talk to also what we call our community team, and we tell them how important it is. But honestly, they don't wait for us. They know that it's important, and they're more adaptive than other ones. And also it's a benefit that they bring to companies. Companies, you mentioned L'Oréal. L'Oréal has now 500 freelancers from Malt deployed in all the company. And they bring, this AI transformation to this type of company, whether they are big ones or smaller ones.
The big transformation that everyone's worried about, because AI generates a lot of fear in the wider public, is job destruction. According to your findings, according to what you see, is the rate of job creation because of people requiring AI skills fast enough to keep up with the job destruction happening elsewhere?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think that history and data, and particularly our own data, don't show that. I think that last year in particular, there was for me a narrative, and particularly from the AI labs, that was not very, not not at all positive, and that brought fear into the market, fear for everyone. And a lot of companies, yes, stopped, hiring young graduates for a moment. But we see that, last quarter of the year and first quarter of this year, things are picking up. I was mentioning software engineers. Software engineers is probably one of the most impacted jobs, by AI. And we've seen that, if at the beginning people were more afraid of, okay, maybe that will change a lot and we won't need, these people. Now companies are understanding that a software engineer, an engineer job or developer job is not just knowing a code, Like 50 years ago, you had to know how to code with 0 and 1. Now you have to code a different way and you can do more things because of that. So I think the fear is probably exaggerated. I mean, I'm not naive, of course, like a lot of type of jobs will be more impacted than others, but I think the task that we have in our jobs will be changed, not the jobs themselves. The job will be on the contrary, I would say you will get access to doing more things as a software developer, for instance, but any type of jobs.
And one last question before we go quite quickly. What does that mean in terms of training for young graduates looking to go into the workforce? Do we have to completely change the playbook, and they have to learn how to work completely differently?
It's a big question for universities and schools. I think they have, yes, to adapt. I mean, it would be stupid not to, learn how to code an agent or to work with AI in whatever type of role these days. But I think it's also important to keep, working on what's behind. I think I mentioned software engineers. I think it's important that they know how things work behind. And it is not just the magic, of AI, but, what's happening behind. So we've seen, yes, the work market impacted, for young graduates. Now it's picking up again. On the contrary, now a lot of companies are realizing that having young people that are usually more AI native and less afraid, is also a good thing to bring the change, bring the transformation that companies need.
Vincent Huguet, you are the CEO and co-founder of Malt, Europe's biggest freelance work platform. There you have it, the latest trends with regards to AI in freelance work. Here from VivaTech, back to you, Delano.
Thank you very much for that, Charles. Charles Pellegrand there covering VivaTech for us. More news